Welcome to Take It from the Iron Woman. My name is Susanne Müller, your host and the Iron Woman. This podcast is about empowering yourself and others to make real changes in the world. You will hear from everyday, smart, sophisticated, hip people like you and me. Not everybody has to be an Iron Woman to impress the world. Together, we will learn from the sports and business leaders how you can become a more successful person as an entrepreneur or a leader. It's one step at a time, one day at a time. Take your steps now. Take your big steps now. Join me on this journey to success. We've spoken to Miss Panda before. Let's go on a journey with her. She has been traveling and living abroad in many different cultures, and we can all laugh with each other. Chocolate. I love chocolate. This is what I learned. Welcome back, Amanda, Miss Panda. Let's hear from you. Let's compare notes. I've traveled to 54 countries. How many have you traveled to?
Well, I don't think I can compare to that number. That's pretty fascinating.
I used to work for the airline. That makes it a little easier, right?
I see. Yeah. So when I move to a place, usually I live there for a few years. Okay. So it's a little bit different than traveling to a place.
Yes,
so I actually have to, for me, I am very curious about the culture, the people. You said something very important, how I respect the people and learn from them. So when I moved to Morocco, that year was very fascinating for me because even though in the Chinese society there are Muslim people, but it's a little bit different when I moved to Morocco. And then because that's also a place that has great in contact with the European countries. So that's how I was able to use some of the French and polish my French. And that is something very important. And also, of course, there is also Arabic. But when you go down south, then more and more Arabic. I need to act to respect the culture. So the whole time I was there, actually, I would dress, long pants and long sleeve shirts, even though it can be a little warm. But that's the way I show my respect to the host country. I think that's where you start building a relationship, actually. We build a relationship because it does not come immediately. You build it, that means you make an effort to kind of build that bridge and connect us together.
Tell us more about your stories when you were traveling around the world, living in different cultures.
And then when I moved to, for example, when I lived in Ecuador, it's another thing I think it's very interesting. You start to see the culture in South America. Actually, their family is very tight with each other. Not just saying I think in the world, everyone has a very tight relationship with the family. But because I lived there and I see, wow, this culture is so similar to the culture I'm from, the Chinese background, because they respect and they have such a tight family relationship. And then the Mother's Day, I think that was so fascinating. I see flowers everywhere. We do see flowers in the States, in different places. Yeah. But the way they celebrate the Mother's Day shows how important mothers are in their life. And I think that's a lot of learning when I live in a country, for a longer period of time. And also I meet a very nice neighbors who, like, for example, my neighbor behind me, who actually does not speak any English, but she knew, she saw the truck thing. She came, knock on my door, rang the bell. And I went out, I had a very limited Spanish, but with the body language and everything, she basically was inviting me to her house to have cake and coffee. The coffee is another word, very easy to understand. So she told me when to go. We went. My children were very concerned at that time. Mom, you sure we're going? You don't really speak Spanish. But I said, but we'll try our best. And we're going to show our friendship because, this person is so kind to come to say hello to us. It was a very intense 1 hour coffee time. I used all the Spanish I know. And I had a headache afterwards. But I feel I build a relationship with my neighbor. And that is really wonderful.
Nice.
Yeah, I think that's always the highlight for me to talk about when I live overseas, how I build relationship with my people around me, people who are the locals, and they are so kind and generous and try to connect with you as an outsider or a foreigner.
I want to add one story about speaking Spanish. So I'm going to Salamanca in beautiful Spain to learn more Spanish. These were the days when not everybody had a bottle of water with them all the time. And I was so thirsty. And it was the time I took a train. I arrived there and I was like, oh my God, what does it say? I'm thirsty. I remember the word for I'm hungry. Tengo hambre. But I was like, I could not remember what it meant. I'm thirsty. I'm arriving there. The señora opens up the door and says, hola, ¿cómo está? And you know what she said? ¿Quieres agua? Do you want water?
She read your mind. ¿Quieres agua? Sí, mucho.
Sí, con mucho gusto. So this goes to show that we have to think in very simple terms. So when you think, I'm thirsty, you don't find the word, but do you want water? That's the universal language. You have to speak with your heart. I think that's also one thing that I've learned, even if you don't speak the language. But that to me, I was dying of thirst and she knew what I needed. Isn't that funny?
That's quite amazing. I have a story. I was in Morocco, and then I had to buy some meat. Then I got really confused. It was the beef or the lamb, and then because we want to make spaghetti, so we want to buy beef. Then I know beef, but I forgot mouton. I was going back and forth in the in front of the butcher. And then I just decided I cannot keep walking anymore. I just went there, and then I asked if you have moo, or I just want to make sure if there's something they have. Yeah. And then it's really funny for them because next time I went there, they remember me. They'll make sure to tell me that that's not the lamb.
I've been to Morocco. It's a very nice country. How can we encourage the people to learn a different language, Mandarin Chinese? We know you have the podcast, and is the podcast, do you think, more so for children or adults?
Yeah, I have a podcast called Playful Chinese, and then it's playful, which means make you relaxed. That's one way you should think about the language. When you are having fun, when it is playful, you feel like it's okay. I can dip my toe in there and see what is it like. It is like a story the family can listen together. And I have adult listeners that also feel like, because it's so simple, everything seems possible. I think when we think it's possible, then you will probably want to learn more. So for Mandarin Chinese, actually, a lot of people say, oh, what's the grammar? How do you say this? How do you say that? I think a lot of times it's more like you do a lot of listening and then comprehensible input, which means when you listen to something, you need to understand. Immersion sounds beautiful because when you are in school, you say this is an immersion school, but it still takes time to understand everything. If we make things comprehensible, and then it's like a start, we can start with a bilingual learning and then move to more, the percentage will go up with Mandarin. Then it's easier for you to learn and feel like it's possible. The possibility there is you start with something small and something you can understand. Do a lot of listening. And then I think one thing very important is a lot of times we think a Chinese language sounds so different, but there's a very important way to process that sound. It's not the traditional listen and repeat, but listen and hear what you just heard in your head and then say what you hear in your head. Okay, so that's something will be very interesting. When you say, 吃饭了吗? Have you eaten? 吃饭了吗?
吃饭了吗?
Yeah. 吃饭了吗? You hear me say that. You hear what I just said in your head. And then you say what you just hear in your mind. 你吃饭了吗? Have you eaten? Actually, it's a very popular common greeting for Chinese people because they're very concerned if you have had your lunch or breakfast or dinner. So it's very important in the culture, the food. But it's a greeting. People just want to check in with you to see, hey, how are you doing? Have you had any food? Yeah, it doesn't mean that they're going to offer you food, but that just means they want to check on you to see if you had a meal already.
So I like the word chocolate.
Chocolate. Yes.
Chocolate. I think that's the word that I need to remember, and chocolate goes a long way.
Oh, something sweet, yeah. And then maybe we can say 我爱巧克力. I love chocolate. 我爱巧克力.
Oh,
爱
chocolate.
巧克力. Yes.
Oh, I chocolate.
我爱巧克力. Here we go.
Okay, I think I can do this.
You're the Iron Woman, definitely. Yes.
Thank you so much. This is so cool. Everybody has to learn Chinese, learn something new every year, and Happy New Year. It will be a great year because anything is possible. Thank you so much, Amanda, Miss Panda. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Such a pleasure.
Thank you. 谢谢.
谢谢.
How fun was that? Now we speak Chinese. Do you want to learn it? 我爱巧克力. I love chocolate. I learned something. Take it from the Ein Woman. We have episodes every Monday, every Wednesday. Don't miss out. There's something for everybody. And Take It from the Ein Woman is also a book where you can follow my journey from Switzerland to the US, to China, to Kilimanjaro, and the Ironman. Don't miss out.